today we're going to talk about networking, because networking your way into employment is also another way of finding that great job that you're looking for. So Sacha, let's just talk about networking. What is networking to you?
Networking is just about professionally making some friends out there. And for some people, that can be really, really uncomfortable. And I know that that can be scary, but we need to make sure that we get comfortable with being uncomfortable when we're making friends with people. And so that means that we need to be the person that reaches out. We're responsible for that because this is going to benefit us. So even if you've got no contacts in an industry, you've got to start somewhere. And that's just about how do we professionally make friends with people? You know, how do we talk to people? How do we connect with them? And you know what? I call that just about asking questions, getting to know people. What do you think about that?
I think it's really important. Look, and there's many people. It doesn't have to be your friends. It also can be, some of your friends' parents and or uncles and aunties, and you get to meet people along the way. And you got to think about what was their journey. So for an example, you might have a relative, an uncle, someone who's 50 years of age. You might ask that person, or an auntie, you might ask that person, how did you get to where you got? What did you start off with? And a really good example is, I made an example of, just the other day was around a builder, so someone asked this builder, how did you become a builder? And he said, what did you do? What was your first job? I started my first job nailing palings on a fence, right? And the young person sat back and went, wow, right? People just don't get into positions, higher up or own their own business through, it doesn't happen just from the get-go, right? Not unless you're special. So you've got to find out how people have done that. And that's part of networking your way through. And I call it like when you meet somebody and start asking questions, and there's nothing wrong with asking questions, and most people want to help people. Try to reverse it around like they're your coach. So that you're asking them questions about their career, their path, and if it's got high interest to you, I think it's really, really good to work out how to try and tap into that. What do you think, Sacha?
Well, you know what, you don't know what you don't know. So how you can get to know people can actually expose you to a whole industry that you didn't even know. I have a standard thing that I always say to people when you're meeting somebody, especially when you're meeting somebody in an industry that you don't know anything about. And the first question is, what is it that you do for a living? And then the second thing is, what does it actually really mean that you do all day? And the reason that that's so important is because that'll give you some intricate details, and we're all about the details. And once you find out about that, you can ask questions that you had no idea about there's so many industries out there, and to find out what they really do all day gives you such a big insight. And then from there, you've actually established like a to and fro conversation that you're learning from them. And all of a sudden you're becoming, comfortable with that network and learning all of that. And it might expose you to an industry that you didn't even know about, that all of a sudden that you've got an interest in as well. The next thing I think that's really important is that we also need to think about how can we actually communicate with people online as well? So let's say we're starting from scratch in an industry. What I would probably say is, if there's an organization or a company that you want to work with, make sure that you follow them online. Not only are you following them online, you're liking their stuff that you're putting out there, you're making sure that you comment on them, you start kind of like a dialogue on their social media. They're going to see that your name pops up all the time. And for us as an organization, when we're putting out content out there, we love it when we get people that are commenting on it. So we're going to feel good as well. And then next, when you all of a sudden you start to build a relationship with them and you slip them a bit of a DM and ask them a question, before you know it, they're comfortable in talking to you. You then get their number. All of a sudden they're a network, and that's a professional relationship, and you have no idea where that's taking you. So I think that's a really important thing. What do you think?
I think great. And just to mention this, you got, someone said to you, hey, listen, I've been following you. I love your company. I love what you do. Do you have any jobs at the moment? No, I don't have any jobs. Would you take somebody in as a volunteer? Would you let me come and do a bit of work experience with you? Right. That might be just the door opener that you just need. So I always say be inquisitive. So networking is about, finding things out, and learning. You want to be a good learner. I want to learn how industry works. I want to learn how you, have progressed in your career. What have been some of the great things? What are some things that have not gone so well? Even things like, who do you know is a great employer out there? You've always got to think that someone knows somebody, right? So for an example, if you want to become a hairdresser, we all get our hair cut, so everyone knows a hairdresser. So there are ways that you can go in and network yourself into opportunities. And that's what the whole world is about networking yourself into opportunities. So just treat it like if you're going to go on a holiday, right? And you ask somebody, where would you go? What would you recommend? Right? And then be inquisitive around that and ask more questions. there's no difference to asking someone about a career and what their pathway has been. And you just never know where it might take you. So for me, I think it's really, really important that you got nothing to lose and learn, all right? Learn about what industry does. And it could be an elimination process. So you might think, you know what? I actually want to get a job as an office admin. But then when you realize that, you talk to somebody that they do the same thing or maybe do something that, doesn't appeal to you, then you might change your mind. Or, well, maybe I don't want to do that. I'll try something different. Because when you're young, it is about elimination. That's part of that process. So networking and finding out information is important for you to try and work out what you want to do. Don't you agree, Sash?
I completely agree. And the great thing is that, people like talking about themselves realistically. So when you ask people about what's going on with them in their life and how they've got to that situation, and you allow them to talk, and you're curious, before you know it, they feel comfortable with you. And then when they start asking you about your life and where you want to go, most people want to help people. So don't be scared to connect with them, and also think about how you can actually help them. I have a big saying, like that saying, give and you shall receive. It's not receive and you shall give. What can you give out to people? So for example, if you've got a hairdresser, make sure that you tell people about them, and tell them, hey, you should go see them, and say, listen, I've referred a couple of my friends to you. And then before you know it, it's more of a network. You've established something more because you're giving something to somebody else first. It's not about what everyone can give you. What can you give? Because then that network's going to be coming back to you as well. I think that, we need to think about what we can do for everybody else. And then, people just want to give back to you once you've done something first. You've got to be that spark at the start.
I totally agree. And I also think it's a sign of initiative and leadership as well. You're taking lead, and by asking questions, it's a skill that you've got to learn, especially when you get into the workforce. Well done, Sacha.
Get comfortable with being uncomfortable about all of this. Don't be scared to make friends. It's a skill. Learn it and get used to it, because it's really going to advantage you in your life.